Hi. Just going to hang on, see if anybody appears. See if anybody joins me. Being attacked by mozzies today, which is not great. So just hang on a minute and see if anyone comes online so that I'm not talking to myself. Oh, I think somebody's popped online. Say hi if there's anybody there, so I can see who's there, or just do a little like or a love heart so I can see that anybody's there. Okay, so as I've said many times before, so there's a couple of people joining me now, so say hi if you're there so I can see who's there. Hi, hello. Hi, lovey. Because I'd love to get more people on watching these videos. You know, I do them for free. I do them in my own time because I want to help people. Like, I know people pay to go on some of my courses and things like that, but you know, I am sharing lots of things. Hi, Jill. That you know, that can help lots of people. So one of the ways, apparently, I've been told that I can get people watching is to ask people when they're watching it just to give it a share. I'm just going to check I'm in the right place. I think I am. So I would love it if anybody finds any of these videos beneficial, just to give them a share, either whilst you're watching or afterwards is fine too. So say hi if you're still there. I'm just going to give it another 30 seconds before I get going. We'll talk a little bit about binge eating. I've been asked to talk about trauma, which I've talked about before. Sorry, my dishwasher is making a very random noise. I'm going to just run and turn it off. 1 second. Hey, I'm back. Okay, so I'm going to talk about binge eating in a second. Put your hands up if you binge eat. Me! And it definitely links to anxiety as well. So just bear with me 1 second and I will be done. There we go. Okay, so as I've said, one of the things as well, I'll just pop in the link here for the next anxiety events that are coming up, which are local to Sale, or I also do one online because so many people that weren't in Sale requested whether they could come to an event or I'd do an event elsewhere. I can't get myself around at the moment too far afield because there's only me, just little old me, so I did one online. But basically, I'm going to talk here about binge eating. Now, it was quite funny actually because someone had asked me about binge eating and I've been literally doing that today. So it was quite good timing because it was very fresh to me. Because what happens in the same way any of the habits that we form, so anxiety is a habit of overthinking. So our anxious thoughts create our anxious feelings. And binge eating is exactly the same thing. Okay, so anyone that binge eats will know that they're not eating because they're hungry. You might start off eating because you're hungry, but then the likeliness is that when you start binging and eating loads of chocolate or whatever it is, that's not because you're hungry. It's because, you know, people say to me, I don't even realise that I'm doing it. It's just I'm on autopilot and I don't even realise that I've done it. Say hi if anyone's there, and also if you've got any questions about anxiety or binge eating, pop them in the comments and I'll answer them while I'm here. But yeah, so and what it is like any kind of habit that we've formed, that you'll have heard about me talk on other videos about, that primal part of your brain that's forming habits, that is literally you're sending thoughts to that part of the brain and then it's acting just like this on a, you know, in a split second, doing what it thinks is helping you to feel a bit better, but without thinking about the longer term consequences of it. So it's just a habit, again, created through thought. So you are not just going to the fridge, picking out chocolate and eating it without any thoughts. It's just impossible. for you to do that. So it has to be coming from thought. So in that sense, it's like anything else. It's like anxiety, it's like drinking, it's like drugs, it's like anything, any habits that people have that they're unhappy with, that then gets into this habitual thing that we feel like we're doing on autopilot, and we're not. It is coming, hi Vicky, it is coming from our thinking initially. And what we do when we form habits, it's like we've got these stories that we always buy into, that we always play into, and we don't really even have to think about it in much detail. That's the bit of you that feels like, well, I'll open the bag of sweets and then by the time I've even realised the whole bag's gone, I've not even thought about it, I've not realised what I'm doing. Well, that's just not true. You have thought about it, and you have thought the whole way that you're doing it, but it becomes second nature. And so in a way, these habits that we're forming, it's based around stories that we tell ourselves. So for example, today, I have eaten, honestly, like an absolute pig. It's disgusting. How I've eaten today is gross. And the reason for that is I was away last night, had a lovely night away for my mum's birthday, just the girls in the immediate family. It was lovely. And we had a really big meal, and we had a lovely pudding after it, and we had wine, and there was no way I was limiting myself. I was there to enjoy myself, which is fine. But what I then do, and this is my story, and everybody else's stories will be different and individual to them, and what I want you to do is kind of notice what your stories are around food, okay? So what I would then say to myself is, right, I need to not be eating like that tomorrow. I need to not keep eating like that now for days, because I'll put weight on, and I don't want to do that. So that's where the story begins for me. I need to do this. I need to not do that. And one of my stories is, okay, if tomorrow I'm going to restrict myself, because that's what I'm telling myself, rather than it being about me actually, I'm just not going to pig out like I have done. I'm not restricting myself, but I tell myself it's restricted. Because the way that I talk to myself is saying things like, I've got to just eat healthy tomorrow. I can't eat any crap tomorrow. And actually, the minute I tell myself I can't eat certain things is when I crave things, because I'm putting the thoughts in my head. And like I said to somebody not so long ago, I've had days where I've actually literally had McDonald's, a pizza and a Chinese in the same day, because it's like my story is I prepare myself to be really healthy the next day. And so I tell myself, right, if I'm going to be good tomorrow, then today I'll just pig out. I'll eat as much rubbish as I want. It doesn't matter, because tomorrow everything's going to be different. But what I'm forgetting is that tomorrow I'm still going to be a human. Hi, Lisa. Tomorrow I'm still going to be a human being. So I'm not just going to go and eat healthily and drink the right amount of water and exercise and all of that. Stuff's just going to happen. So some people's story, often around binge eating, it's all or nothing. There's no moderation. And that's the story that you're creating. So because we know that thoughts then create feelings, us thinking about that, oh, tomorrow I've got to eat healthy and I've got to do this, like suddenly starts creating the feeling of, oh God, not looking forward to that. Or the feelings of dread, or probably the feelings for me becomes about, oh, I'm going to end up letting myself down because I know realistically I'm going to find it really difficult. And all of that is just completely, hello Jen, completely and utterly thought-based. It's story, it's absolute bullshit that I'm making up. It's my story, it's what I am creating around food. And so then I'm fitting in with that, because I'm telling myself that's what I do. You know, the people that always start a diet on a Monday. My mum always starts a diet on a Monday. Why? Who decided diet started on a Monday? So again, if you decide you're starting on a Monday, and then what happens if you wake up on that Monday and it just doesn't happen? You then write yourself off for another week. Why? Because it's a story that you've created. I'm just one of those people that can't stop once I start. There's another story. I just have to do it to make myself feel better if I'm fed up. There's another story. I really struggle to get rid of weight because of this, this, and this. There's another story. And actually, all of these stories that you're creating is what's keeping you in that cycle. And what we really have to do in order to change that cycle, to change that habitual way of thinking about food, the first thing we need to do is realise that, one, they're stories that we've created. It might be that we've created them over past experience or whatever it is, but there's still stories, there's still things that we've created. There's nothing to say that tomorrow onwards, or in an hour's time onwards, things can be different. other than us telling ourselves that, well, it can't be like that in an hour because I can start it tomorrow because I always start it the next day because when I wake up, I'll have a good breakfast and that'll set me in good stead. That's just a story again. Where actually in that moment, you know, you could have just binged on chocolate like I have today. And I've got two choices now. I can still, because what I want to do is still eat more before I go to bed because I've got in that cycle of horrendous sugar rush where it's ups and downs. And then I'll start in the morning. But actually, I can just say, do you know what? I'm just going to stop now. And the way that we change any habits that we've formed in our thinking. So as I always say with anxiety when I talk to people, I don't want to discount how awful it can feel because I get it. And if you've watched all of my videos, you will know that I'm really not adverse to sharing how awful it has been for me as well. But I do know that actually it was all created. Those anxious feelings were created through my anxious thinking. So it works in exactly the same way. And the key thing that we need to do first and foremost is just start to question. Start to question that maybe we are just making these stories up. Maybe we can experience things slightly different. So maybe I don't have to be that person who has to completely healthy eat tomorrow to be okay. Maybe I can healthy eat for the majority of the day and have a treat and still be okay. Maybe I don't have to binge once I have one bar of chocolate. Maybe I don't have to be that person that then goes on and has loads more. But all of this is formed in the part of our brain that creates habits and forms habits. And it's exactly the same with anxiety. And often the two will come hand in hand because, I mean, everybody's different and people talk about, well, I overeat if I'm stressed. But actually then quite often for people, if they get to a certain level of anxiety and feelings and the body's producing a lot of adrenaline, it can stop you from wanting to eat at all. And you know, so again, it's kind of all or nothing. I'm anxious and I don't eat. And then suddenly it's like, oh, actually, I feel a lot better now and I'm going to make up for it kind of thing. And again, it's just all stories. Like I tell myself when I'm anxious, I don't eat. That's just me. That's what I do. That's what I do. So inevitably, that's what happens because we keep telling ourselves and we've constantly got this dialogue going on in the back of our heads. It's exactly the same with food. If you're telling yourself that you don't even realise you're doing it and before you know it, it's too late, it's rubbish. It's absolute rubbish. You are thinking about it. There are times, there is space between your thinking and you picking that thing up and eating it. There is space. It might feel quick, but there is space and time in between. And hi. And so there is that space. Now, if you feel like you're on autopilot, that's because you are going along with what you feel your stories are that you've created in your head around food. So just have a think about, you know, what your stories are. As anyone that's listening at the moment, if you have a story around food for you, pop it in the comments because I'm sure other people will have similar or their own. But again, it's all stories that you are creating. To tell yourself that's just how you are. That's just how things work for you. Has anybody got any questions they want to ask me whilst you're on? While you are there. Sorry, I'm getting attacked by mozzies still. About anything. I've been asked to cover a few other things as well, like around anxiety. I've got a few, but I will pop on and do that on another day because I don't want to talk too much and go off track. So yeah, let me know. What are your thoughts? Any questions about anxiety or food, binge eating, anything at all? Let me know. Let me know what your stories are around food. Don't be shy. Come on. It's nice to see there's more people than usual on here tonight, which is lovely. Any questions at all? No? Being shy? Somebody also asked me about phobias earlier. I did do a video not so long ago on fears and phobias, which if you have a look on my page, on the page where this video has been shared from, then it's on there. But again, you know, if you've got anything specific you want to ask, then let me know. I always start tomorrow. Let's have a look. I always start tomorrow. I eat my feelings. Yes. You see, I mean, we can laugh about these because when you say it like that, it's kind of funny, and I'm laughing because I say the same things to myself. But it's a load of shit. Like, again, who decides that who decides that diets are meant to start or healthy eating is meant to start the next day? Like, where on earth does that come from? It's usually passed down. My mum used to say it, and so that's where I get it from. I don't eat through the day and overeat in the night. So again, that's your story. So it's no wonder that you forget to eat in the day because it's not in your thought process. Your story is that you don't need to consider that in the day because that's just not what you do. And then suddenly it's at night. I was asked the same thing today, actually, in the Living Your Best Life Members Club for the coaching call. I ask for questions every week. And one of the things I'm going to be covering this week is similar in a sense, in that it's about anxiety, and that people will say, I always get really anxious from 5 o'clock in the evening. That's where it really kicks in for me. And actually, there's nothing at all that indicates that anxiety is worse in the morning, in the afternoon, or in the evening. It's different for everybody. So while one person says I get really anxious at night, other people will say I'm really bad in the morning. And the reason being is not because anxiety is a thing that's happening to them from the outside in, which is, at a certain time because it's something like, that they can't do anything about. The reason that their anxiety is there in the morning or the evening, for example, is because that's the time when they're overthinking. And that's it. So, if people say that they eat more at night, that's because that's where eating is coming into their thoughts more, because that's what they've told themselves, that's what they do. So they don't even think about it in the morning. Again, how many times people say, I just don't eat breakfast. I've never had breakfast. Why not? Just tell yourself you don't need it. You don't eat it. When actually, I'm pretty sure that any kind of medical person or dietitian or whatever would say it's important to eat in the morning when we wake up. It's like putting fuel in your car. It's like, you wouldn't say, all right, I'll run on empty in my car till tonight because I only put petrol in the evenings. You'd end up breaking down, possibly. So again, it's just stories. And when we say it like that, if you mirror it and say, make it to something kind of quite insignificant, like putting petrol in the car, and you found yourself saying, oh, I only put petrol in at night time, you'd laugh again because it's like, well, that's a bit ridiculous. And it's the same thing, because what you're doing is you're picking times of day that you say you do things. Overthinking is a bad habit. Overthinking, I mean, I would say most people overthink at times, but actually anxiety, when people talk about anxiety so much all the time, that anxiety is this thing, and anxiety is overthinking. It comes from thoughts. So the 3 principles that I teach in all of these videos and all of my coaching programs now is basically about getting to grips with that, because that is ultimately what causes everything. It's definitely a habit. Eating because you're in a routine, having a biscuit when you're having a cup of tea, yeah, that's not a rule, although it should be. Well, it's a rule that you possibly create yourself, because I'm the same. One of my random fears is with my stomach rumbling. Sounds silly, no, it doesn't sound silly, but it's been a fear over a number of years. I've learned it's more about what people will think, and that's what most of my anxiety is. Yeah, because again, part of anxiety, the overthinking part, is some people might overthink there if they, different types of anxiety get categorized in lots of different ways. So health anxiety, for example, that is just people overthinking every tiny little physical symptom that they get, or they're fearing death or something like that. It's all overthinking. So in the same way that worrying about what other people think is still overthinking. So again, if you put 100 people in a room that all had severe anxiety, even though there may be some real familiar thoughts, they'd all be really different, because we all worry about our own individual things. And again, with things like that, so say people say, right, okay, and I'll just use that as a bit of an example. And I don't want to say this, I don't want this to be disheartening to you, because actually it's really not that difficult to get rid of anxiety once you start to understand how the human brain works and how human nature is. But actually, if, for example, you sorted out your fear, and somebody else asked me, what about hypnotherapy? Is it any good? Can it get rid of fear of flying, blah, blah, blah? Yeah, I'd say it can. But if you understand from your own kind of cognitive level how human nature works, and you can understand that thoughts are what creates our experience in life 100% of the time, no exceptions, then you can tackle anything. Fear of flying, fear of heights, anxiety, whatever it is, all amounts to the same thing. So let's just say you tackled this issue with your stomach. There's nothing to say that a week later your anxiety wouldn't manifest around something else. Because when we put our anxieties onto something, like it's because of my stomach, or it's because of this, or I've got health anxiety, or I've got OCD, or I've got anxiety around my children, or I've got this, that fear of death, or whatever it is, it's overthinking. Now, if you are a habitual overthinker, you'll find something else. So you could sit there. So if people come to me for coaching, we could sit there and say, right, let's focus on your stomach, blah, blah, blah. But that might then be replaced by something else. So what I want to be doing with you is helping you really understand how thought works, because then you will realize that actually it's the thoughts that's creating. And actually you're overthinking that. You're probably creating that rumbling in your stomach through your thinking. And actually it might be that only you can hear it and other people can't hear it. And again, with anxiety and fear, if we start to get fight or flight fear sensations, then our stomach starts to think about emptying, because that's what physiologically happens. So no wonder your stomach's rumbling. So some people feel really sick, some people might have diarrhea, some people might just need to get out of there and run away, or whatever it is. It's different for everybody, but it all amounts to the same thing, which is the overthinking. So again, creating stories. Well, if I go there, what if I'm in this meeting, or what if I'm in the school hall with, and then just my stomach starts rumbling. That's then creating that fear, that feeling, that horrible discomfort that then is linking and leading to other things. When it starts with the thinking, it always starts with the thinking. And it does manifest physically in our bodies because, again, we're sending messages to our brain to do things with our bodies. Okay, let's have a look. So I worry about what other people think on a number of things, but actually I think a lot of people don't think twice or care. Sometimes I have to tell myself that, yeah, they don't, because the way that human nature is, we are born to survive. And being born to survive means that some people might want to call it selfish. I don't think it is. Survival can appear selfish because actually all we really care about is surviving as human beings. That is what is in us. Okay, so all these people that we think are concentrating and focusing on us and, am I going red, and will they hear my stomach rumbling, they're just concerned in their own stuff. They're just concerned in their own, because we're all there to survive. Now, I would be naive if I didn't think that people were out there that were mean and not very nice and said horrible things and judged people. There are people out there, of course. You see it online all the time. I get nasty comments on my stuff when I'm just trying to help people. You shouldn't charge anyone for, helping people with anxiety. What kind of a person does that make you? Well, and then I'll say, well, would you expect to go to the doctors and for them to be working for free? Maybe you would, I don't know. But again, people are always going to have views and ideas that are different to ours. But when you start to really understand the true nature of thought and how that creates our experience everywhere, everything that we do is created through our experience. Our experience is created through our thinking. You then realize we have a choice to care about that or not. Because we cannot control other people. We cannot control other people's thoughts. I have thoughts that crop up that are not nice, that I think that makes me sound really awful. If people could hear what was going in my head, they'd think I was a real bitch. I can't help that the thoughts come. They come. What I do with them is a very different thing. We can't all expect to not ever have thoughts about other people or to judge people. We do it quite naturally. And it's just one of those things that happens. But it's about what we then do with it. I've learned to try and put myself in other people's position. For example, what would I think if someone's stomach rumbled? I wouldn't think anything, and I'd probably not think about it again. It's so hard to get out of habit. Yeah. Now, this is the other thing about what these 3 principles that I teach help with, because you're right in that you can try and spin it. But there's also the other option, that if you just start to understand how thought works, think, well, do you know, I'm having those thoughts worrying about other people, but if you leave them well alone, they'll just pass and go, because that's what happens with thought. But if you start to try and figure it all out, well, what if I was in their shoes? And what if I was there? What I aim to get people to is a place where they don't need to do that. They don't need to figure out what other people might think. And if it's a strategy that works for you right now, then great, do it. But actually, you don't have to, because once you start to understand more about thought and how that works, in actual fact, the thought will come, oh, what they're going to think if my stomach rumbles, and you'll notice it as a story that you make up and a story that's familiar to you. And then you can kind of either choose to jump on that and work it all out and what it might be like and who might be there, or you can just leave it and it will go. Because thoughts always pass. They always go. Unless we hold on to them really tightly and keep trying to figure it all out, and then they stay longer. So yeah. Has anyone got any other questions at all? Hear the football in the background. I have no interest in football whatsoever. It's nice to see some familiar faces pop up here. It's lovely. My daughter's sneaking in. What's the matter? So it's all about understanding the way thought works and how thought creates our complete experience. So you'll know if you've watched any of my videos in the past that, you know, for example, you might be watching a film at the cinema and it might be a really sad film, and you know that film's not real, so it's not a true story, it's actors and actresses, and you could sit there crying your eyes out because it's really sad. Don't do that, Mary. Come and say hi if you want. Quickly. So, that's right, say hello. She's got her new pyjamas on, haven't you? Say hi. Right, get gone. Both got very red faces, haven't we? So say you're watching a film, it's really, really sad. You start to feel sad to the point where you could cry. Or say with a scary movie, you're sat there and you're like, you know, I've done it where I've watched scary films, like, oh, I'm going to have to watch something nice before I go to bed because I'm not going to sleep. I'm going to be laid awake worrying all night, or scared that some kind of weird clown's going to come in the house. We know that film is not real, yet it does not stop us having overwhelming feelings about it. So where do those feelings come from? We know it's not real. So where do they come from? They come from our thoughts. We are sat there thinking, oh, that's really sad. Oh, imagine if that happened to someone in my family. And imagine if this, and imagine if that, and that's really awful. Oh, and I remember when my uncle died, or when my parents died, or what's going to happen one day when I die and my children are going to be left without me, or what if this and what if that. And we could be sat watching a film about something that we know isn't real, it's actors and actresses, but all of that dialogue is going on. It's that thinking that then creates that feeling. It creates the feeling inside of us. Okay. Hi Tina. Hi Lisa. So that is what's happening. It's all coming from that place. So that's how powerful it is. It doesn't matter that we know that it's not real. So again, when we're having really overwhelming, irrational overthinking, some of the irrational thoughts I've had, like if someone came and shook me, I'd be like, well, I know, of course that's not going to happen. That's ridiculous. I've just made that up out of nowhere and it's very unlikely to happen. But it doesn't stop you having the feelings. It doesn't stop you having the feelings that are really overwhelming and really powerful because we've created them through our thinking. And again, we do that the same with the food. It all links in. So, you know, we are picking up and eating shit because we have told ourselves for the last 2 hours that we're fed up and that we're bored and that, well, I always start the next day and I deserve a day off, and whatever our stories are that we are telling ourselves, it's like we've been beating ourselves with a stick for 2 hours. So yeah, we're going to go and pick up that chocolate. The only thing that's making us pick that up is us and our thoughts, and we can change them. Hi Debs. We can change them whenever we like. Okay. So unless anyone's got any other questions, I will leave it there, and feel free to comment if you watch the recording of this later on. Still ask questions. If anybody has any other topics that they want me to cover, I'll do these every Monday that I share on here. And then I think I've put the link at the top. I'll share it in a second. That if anybody wants to do the Tackling Anxiety event, it's £10 per person. You can either do it locally to Sale. There's a daytime session, there's an evening session, face-to-face, or there's an online one for anyone who isn't local to Manchester or just doesn't really want to be in a group setting like that. I do it online as well. So all the links are on the page. Any questions, let me know. And thanks for joining me. As I say, it's really nice to see some people's... Let's have a look. What's that say? All you're saying is so relatable. Yes, it is. And do you know what, Lisa? It's not because I'm any good. It's not because I can create magic. It's because I understand how human nature works. It's not rocket science. It's literally how we all function and how we all work, but we just don't seem to know. Oh, are you joining me on the online one, Louise? That's good. I'm really looking forward to it. That's the first one that's on. It's not long, actually, is it? So yeah, so you know, that's why it makes sense, because it makes sense to us because it's how human nature works. And so all I'm pointing out is what's going on for all of us. And people go, oh, I really relate to that. Yeah, because you're human. But yet when people are feeling anxious, or when they're binge eating and they've put weight on and they're unhappy with themselves, they think they're different to everybody else. And oh, it's just me, there's something wrong with me. There isn't. You're just caught up in a shitload of thinking. You're just overthinking everything. And you've always got that capacity underneath just to go back to basics, which is what what I and lots of other coaches that use these principles do. It's just about getting you back to how you were. We weren't born binge eating. We weren't born anxious. We weren't born angry. You know, we have feelings, and we have, you know, none of us are perfect, but it's about, you know, knowing I don't want to sit here and say that I'm never ever going to binge eat and eat shit. I don't care. I'm quite happy to do that occasionally. Sometimes I quite enjoy it. But as long as I know I have the choice, and then I don't feel like I'm kind of saying to myself, oh God, if I carry on like this, what's going to happen? And then starts a feeling like I'm completely losing control, because it doesn't have to be like that. You know, you can have bad days. You know, again, lots of people I work with who have anxiety, and I've really been able to change and turn my life around understanding these three principles, especially in terms of anxiety. But I don't sit here and say that I never get anxious, because that would be a lie, because it's part of human nature. It is absolutely part of human nature. But what isn't, as I say, normal, whatever that is, what isn't necessary is feeling like you don't want to leave the house, feeling like you're so low and so flat, feeling so inadequate. All of that stuff that can come with it isn't necessary. You know, there's certain things in life that are going to create anxieties for us, different things that we don't know about, things that are unpredictable, things that we're not used to, going to create some kind of feeling of anxiety, because there's thinking, oh, what will it be like when we get there? What if this? What if that? So it's naturally going to create some of those feelings. But you know what? Once you get there and you settle, they go. So people that remain anxious all the time, and I've been there, it's because you're not letting those thoughts go. They're not settling. And it's a vicious cycle then with the physical symptoms. But those who are doing that event, I'll talk about that in there anyway. And if anyone's got any specific questions, let me know, and I can cover it all in further little videos as well. So yeah, let me just check. I've got to go, because I've got to go and get prepared for Love Island. So that might have just lost me some people on the next video. I don't care, because I love it. Okay, right, take care everyone, and I will catch up with you very soon, and thank you so much for joining me. It's really nice to see lots of people, so hopefully I'll see you next Monday as well. Okay, take care, bye.